This is where the timeline fractures start to become visible. Let's go in. The last major reset occurred between the mid-1700s and late 1800s, roughly 250 to 150 years ago. This reset wasn't just war or disease, it was a global memory wipe, infrastructure repopulation, and narrative overwrite. They used mud floods, fires, engineered natural disasters, and selective rewriting of history to wipe Tartaria and erase what came before. Now here's the strange part. The Capitol buildings, World's Fair structures, old world cathedrals, domed geometries, these were already here. We didn't build them, we inherited them. Photos from the 1800s show cities fully built, yet nearly empty. No scaffolding, no construction, just there. And the stories, always the same, built in a few years, then burned down. Now enter the orphan trains and Cabbage Patch Kids. Between 1854 and 1929, over 200,000 children were shipped across the U.S. by train. No parents, no background, just orphans. But where did all the orphans come from? They were reset survivors, children with no memory, no lineage, placed into repopulated cities to seed a new narrative. Why? Because adults remember. Children can be programmed. Cabbage Patch Kids, the dolls said to be grown in the Cabbage Patch, are symbolic disclosure. Born from the earth, no parents. Just like the orphan trains. The name is not innocent, it's encoded truth. The U.S. wasn't founded and built from scratch. It was inherited, cleansed, and rebranded. The buildings were Tartarian. The reset was intentional. And now the memory is coming back. Because people like you are asking the right questions.
Dangerous times than ever before. Deception never comes and announces it's here. It always comes dressed as an angel of light. He invited her into a portal. There's the Luciferians who are pulling the strings at the highest levels. It's easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled. Novus Ordo Seclorum, New World Order.
You enslave your child, your wife, your mother. There isn't anything that you ever had. There isn't anything that you own. There isn't any right that you possess that they're not planning on taking away.
Sheeple.
Your sheeple. And your children are going to be slaughtered if you go along with the program. It's time to wake the town and tell the sheeple. We are being led like sheep to the slaughter. What is the purpose? A new world order. The United States of America is controlled by this evil archy. They control the money system. They control the State Department. They control the presidency.
So they have a plan to give us a new age world, global, occultic religion. They're going to have been deceived so greatly that they'll actually think it's something good. In fact, the whole New Age movement, the New World Order crowd is telling people that the 666 mark of the beast is the most elite thing that could ever happen to them.
No cash. Cashless society. It's ready to go. Disease could be created. In essence, this is what he was saying.
We have new strains of virtually everything that's drug-resistant or drug-free.
Well, I'm not worried about the old diseases. I'm worried about the ones that they create to bring down the population of the world. They simply want to exterminate them, but that they consider them to be useless eaters.
Words are very important to the Illuminati. These things are manufactured purposely for a purpose. And so I'm saying that there is something organized and directed, and it's here in this country.
Future shocker, biochip. And this is what Anthony showed you earlier, a biochip. That's an injectable computer chip, an economic mark in the back of our right hands or in our foreheads.
You've got a choice. You can join in this fight, or you can die as a slave.
Yeah, of course, but I'm pretty sure of my opinion is that the richest people in the world, you will never see them on a richest people in the world list. They'll never be there because these guys are behind the scenes. They have enough money.
Yeah, they work behind the scenes pulling the strings of what they're doing.
Right, and you'll never see them. You know, you don't see the Rothschilds. There's never been a Rothschild on a world's richest people list. Really? They own the world back system and they're never on the richest people list? Come on. How's that possible? It's simple. They own the media. They own it all. And, you know, for them to just print money and make somebody a millionaire and control them and put them out there as a front man, very simple. Very, very simple for them. And that's exactly what they do. They're the movers and shakers of the world, you know?
Now, what is the connection here with what people like to refer to as the 13 bloodlines, like the Orsinis, the Medicis, like those bloodlines? What I haven't really gone down any rabbit holes into that, but I know that, my interest has been piqued over time, just different little crumbs that I've come across and different things that I've seen, read, watched, whatever. What is the connection there with those bloodlines that people always like to bring up?
Well, they say that they can trace their bloodline all the way back to Nimrod, and from Nimrod all the way back to Cain. They are Luciferian, and they literally say that they can trace their bloodline all the way back through Gilgamesh, through Nimrod, all the way to Cain. So when you hear about these royal bloodlines, that's the bloodline that they are talking about.
So are they claiming then to be like Nephilim descendants? Is that what it all boils down to?
No, more pure than that, I guess. But yeah, I would imagine the Nephilim is part of it, but they don't really talk about that from my understanding and the research I've done.
I'm going to tell you about one of my cases. And then in the lectures in the future, I will tell you about individual cases I've worked and investigated that absolutely without any question establishes there is a conspiracy and infiltration into the lower levels of the government all the way to the White House. And this is the John Van Meter case. On Halloween 2004, John Van Meter, a woodsman from Wisconsin, had attended a conference in Sonoma County, California. And after the conference, he was driving home, and he saw 5 or 6 automobiles, black automobiles, with people in them, driving into the woods. He did a U-turn and came back, and a safe distance from what was taking place, he could see a fire. He could see a girl in the nude tied against a tree. And most of the people there were in the nude. And he said, this is not right. So somebody shot at him. And he got his gun out. Being a woodsman, he carried a gun. And he shot back. Long story short, he shot in 4 of them, broke up the ceremony, and rescued the girl, carried her over and put her in the car. The others scattered, and he chased the leader into the woods and shot him. Okay. He had a pretty exciting evening that night, didn't he? He looked at the body of the leader and took a card out, a little business card out. And on the back of it was a 202 area code. The next day he called, and a female answered, Federal Bureau of Investigation. The next day he called, and the line had been disconnected. And when he was chasing the leader through the woods, they had a running conversation, and the leader said, we have the police and the FBI in our hip pocket here. If you kill me, you'll live in a 10 by 10 cell the rest of your life. So John ends up reporting to the police, Sonoma County, and goes back home. And they filed charges against him, claiming that he filed a false report. And they waited 4 days to go out into the woods and search the area. The police did. And so he hires an attorney in Sonoma County, and the attorney says, don't come back here. It's corrupt. Law enforcement's corrupt. You'll end up serving time. The attorney worked out a deal with John, to fine him $10,000 and a year probation, 2 years probation, I think, and no jail time. They said that he shot himself. Okay. He goes back to Wisconsin in April the 19th, 2006, a year and a half later. Anybody remember that date? That's a rather significant date in Oklahoma City, Waco. He goes out in the woods, and he's a woodsman at that. And two fellas come out, drive out, park the car, get out, and he hears one of them say, "He's mine." He has another gun battle. He knocks one of them down 4 times, the other one down twice. And they had enough, they took off. He goes to the police, and he tells the police what happened. And they say he shot himself. He was shot 9 times with 6 different weapons. His pickup truck had 25 bullets in it, and he shot himself. So John had a trial. They tried him. We brought an expert in from Madison. I went to the trial. We brought an expert in from Madison, Wisconsin, who said he could not possibly have shot himself based on the circumstances. And John was tried and convicted, and they changed their story from he shot himself to he lied to the police. John told me, "Sure, I had to lie to the police. I didn't trust him. Why would I not lie to the police?" So that shows you, and by the way, he's placed on probation, and during the 1-year probation out of Wisconsin, somebody planted a marijuana plant in his garden. Obviously, they wanted the probation officer to find it. The probation officers came by regularly, searched his home without a search warrant, looking for guns, looking for booze. You can't have either one when you're on probation. And then last February the 6th, his house burned to the ground early in the morning. So that just shows you how the corruption has permeated down to the very lowest level, Sonoma County and Lincoln County, Wisconsin. This man could not possibly have shot himself. As I said, he was shot 9 times with 6 different weapons. I have a copy of the letter here that the girl wrote. By the way, she's in hiding. She changed her name several times. And nobody knows other than John and a few others about her whereabouts. Was she kidnapped? Yeah, she was kidnapped. She was kidnapped out of a parking lot in Oakland. 4 guys came at her in daylight and shot her in the thigh with a needle. She lost consciousness, and they put her in a van. Would you like to have me read the letter that she wrote? Okay, I'm the woman from the satanic cult abduction case on Halloween. I'm scared to death of them finding out who I am, so I'm not coming forward. The only person I'm ever going to tell is my brother. By the way, she jumped in the car and drove into Oakland and called her brother. Her brother came and picked her up. She was in the nude, by the way. She had no clothes on. He thinks would be best if I stay anonymous, but he has convinced me to write down everything I remember exactly as I can and send it to the police. So this is what I'm doing. They were going to rape and murder me, and I hope they get caught. People need to know what's happened to me. I'm so scared they will find out who I am. I'm writing on an old typewriter, so it won't be on my hard drive. It started Saturday night. I was walking across the parking lot in Oakland. 4 guys got out of a car and grabbed me. They gave me a shot with a hypodermic needle in my thigh. I was unconscious for seconds. When I woke up, I had handcuffs on behind my back. My feet were tied together. The handcuffs were tied to something I couldn't move. They put tape over my eyes and my mouth. I didn't know where I was or how long I was there. I was thirsty and felt like I couldn't breathe. I had to go to the bathroom. I was terrified. I laid there and thought about what had happened to me over a long period of time. I'm not a religious person, but I prayed for the first time in my life for God to save me. I went to sleep and dreamed. In a dream, I saw a big white dog. It sat down, turned its head sideways, and looked at me. I felt like the dog was a girl dog, and she came to help me. I can't explain it any other way. Then I got up and ran away. I don't know why I'm even saying this. It just seems weird and real. I woke up again. I had to go to the bathroom so bad I finally gave up and urinated in my pants. It was awful. Then it was wet and cold. After a long time, I heard noises like a car door opening, and a couple of guys grabbed me. One guy said, "Pissed on the floor." The other guy said something like, "Shut up, clean it up, and load the stuff in." I'm pretty sure now I was in the back of a van. They took me into a search or something, in the house or something. The guy said, if you cooperate, we won't hurt you. If you struggle, we will kill you. Is that understood? I nodded my head, yes. What could I do? He said. Would you like something to drink? I nodded yes. And they took the tape off my mouth and gave me some water or something. It tasted funny. They started to take my clothes off, and I was sure they were going to rape me. The guy said, just relax, we're going to give you a bath now. They guided me into a bathtub and washed me all over with a cloth and shampooed my hair. I was really scared. It was weird. They dried me off and blew my hair dry with a blower dryer and a brush. They put tape back on my mouth and put a white terry cloth robe on me. They set me down on the chair. I couldn't see anything because the tape on my eyes. I could see the voice. I could hear voices in another room. I was getting pretty sleepy. I think that there was something in the water they gave me. Then a couple of guys got to me. They took me out and put me in the back of the van and drove away. I knew there were other people in the van, but they didn't talk. They just played this loud, instrumental, heavy metal music. They drove me for a long time. I felt very sleepy. After a long time, the van stopped. The couple got me out. My feet were bare, and I was standing in dirt. I heard a lot of people talking quietly. I heard clicking noises in the van. A guy beside me said, "What are you doing?" The other guy said, "Getting ready for sanitizing after." Then the first guy said, "Dude, we haven't had the party yet." I thought it was so weird I remembered it. Then I heard a woman's voice say, "This is the sacrifice." She untied my robe and put her hands on my breasts. She said, how did she test? A guy said, "Perfectly." She put her body next to me. I could feel her. She was dead. She said to my ear, "I'm going to drink your blood." I felt suddenly very sick. I started to collapse. A big guy picked me up and walked with me. Then they set me down and took off the handcuffs. They tied my hands and arms and put a rope around my neck. They took the tape off my eyes. I was in the forest. They had tied me to a tree or something. I was so scared I was shaking. I knew I was going to die. 4 women walked to me. One was wearing chains with rings in her neck, and she had a big knife. She ripped the tape off my mouth and touched my with the knife. Then she jabbed at my face repeatedly with the knife. I was terrified. I wanted to kill. They tied the rope open behind me. They touched me. I don't want to be graphic, but they did things to me. Then they did things to each other and had wild. This was the worst, awful woman were doing this to me. I hope they all get terminal disease and rot in hell. Some guys unrolled a big plastic sheet in front of me and made a fire. It was getting dark. A bunch of people gathered in front of me. They were all naked, and they started chanting some weird language. A man came and stood in front of me. He was older than the others, maybe 30. He was over 6 feet tall and a real lean build. His hair was almost black, so was his beard. He had weird eyes. Somebody was behind me and pulled the rope tight on my neck. He had his hands on my breast. I stared at him. He stared at me and never blinked. I couldn't help looking into his eyes. It was like hypnosis. He put me in a trance. It was like staring at a snake. He began to put his... Then I heard loud yelling and guns shooting. The snake-eye man jerked away from me and stood looking through the forest towards the noise. Everybody ran into the trees. The snake man poured water on the fire and walked away quietly. Then I heard him say, "Killer." A naked man came forward towards me with a knife. A man came running up with a silver gun and shot him right in the front of me. He was big and tall, old man, and he had a white beard. That's John Van Meter, by the way. That's the one that was tried. And he had a white beard. I heard a loud bang behind me. I saw the shot hit the old man in the side of his stomach and knocked him down. He shot back multiple times while laying down and got up, started cutting the rope on my arms and with the knife. Somebody else shot at us, and the man shot back. Then he said something like, "Hold on, girl, I'll get you loose," or something. I fell down. The man picked me up with his arms around my waist and walked away fast. He shot me his gun twice and yelled very loud, "No more harm will come to this girl." Then he said something about coming straight from God to kill them all. He called them sons of bitches and said he was going to kill them all. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. I think he scared them. Nobody shot at us anymore. We got in the car and on the road. I think he asked me if I could drive. I said yes. He put me in a car and said something fast things. It said, and he put me in the car and said some fast things to me. All I really heard was "Go home and stay anonymous." I couldn't believe he was going with me. Wasn't going with me. I couldn't believe I was going to live when I was so sure I was going to die before. He wanted me to go, but I asked him, "Are you an angel?" End quote. I'll never forget his eyes. He had blood on his face, but his eyes glowed brightly blue, like they were fluorescent or something. He said, "No, but one sent me to you." He said, "Now go, I'll call the cops," and slammed the door. I hated to leave him. I felt safe with him. I don't know why he wasn't going to go with me. I drove as fast as I could. I almost ran off the road a couple of times. I don't know where I was. Even when I finally got to the highway, I went the wrong way until I realized where I was and turned around and went home. When I really got home, it was really late. I was still shaking, and I had blood on me where the wounded old man carried me. I felt sick for him. I found out later that nobody would even knew I was gone. I couldn't believe it. I was hurt by it until I realized it was my own fault. Then this was the payback for all the times I fought with my parents over them wanting to know where I was going every minute. I hope the newspaper prints this so I can say to the kids, stop fighting with your parents. There is a reason why they want you to know where you are. My brother and I took the car and parked it in Berkeley. He said he'd call the cops and tell them where it was. We looked at it to see if we could find any who belonged to it. It was weird. There was nothing in the glove box or ashtray. No litter on the floor, nothing. Nobody's car is this clean. The only thing in it was 4 black sweatshirts and 4 black sweatpants, all identical. We opened the trunk, and all that was in there was a used syringe. Then it hit me. This red Pontiac was the car the guy got out of who abducted me. They must have put me in the trunk. We're going to have to the syringe test and see what they shot me with. Also, when I was showering, I noticed a painful needle mark in my forearm. Then I remembered how one bitch said, "How did she test?" They drew blood from me while I was unconscious to test for what? AIDS? Then I remembered how that guy said exactly perfect, and I wonder if it was something else. They really scared me. I'm really sick and frightened for the man who saved me. I don't have a TV and haven't been calm enough to watch for anybody else, with anybody else. My wonderful brother has been on the run and hadn't heard anything definite either. I learned last night how you can tell a lot about a man who's looking real close into his eyes. The snake man and the old man who saved me were exactly the opposite. You can see it in their eyes. What I remember most is the shiny blue eyes of the man who saved me. He reminded me of my late grandfather. I want him to live because he's a good man who somehow miraculously saved me, and because I went down to write in the newspaper and explained to me why he looked like my grandfather. I can't think of him dying, and I'm scared to death of what's going to happen. I know now why he stayed there. He was mad as hell, and he wanted to kill him. My grandfather had a bad temper, too, for bad people. I hope he does. I know these snakes did this before to others like me, and if they live, they will do it again. I especially want the snake eye man to die. I never want to see him again, ever. People like this can't be rehabilitated in prison. I can never forgive them. It took me all afternoon and all night to write this. I hope it makes sense to someone, whoever reads it. I had to take a lot of breaks before crying. The sun will be up soon, and it will be another day. My brother is leaving soon to mail this away from my home. I don't even want these snakes to know the zip code I live in. Then he's going out to the forest where I think I was to look for the man who saved me. I'm going to stay home and pray for God to save this man. He saved me. I hope we will save the man. He will save the man who is sent to do this. I don't know if this will help catch the snakes who tried to kill me. I tried hard to remember anything I could. I'm still so shaken up. I can't think I'll ever be normal again.
Subversion is basically, it consists of 4 periods, time-wise. If we start from here and go this way, time, right? This is the beginning point. The first stage of subversion is the process which is called basically demoralization. It says for itself what it is. It takes from say 15 to 20 years to demoralize a society. Why 15 or 20 years? This is the time sufficient to educate one generation of students or children. One generation, one lifetime span of a person, a human being, which is dedicated to study, to shaping up the outlook, ideology, personality. No more, no less. Usually it takes from 15 to 20 years. What it includes? It includes influencing, or by various methods, infiltration, propaganda methods, direct contacts, doesn't really matter. I will describe them later. Of various areas where public opinion is formulated or shaped. Religion, educational system, social life, administration, law enforcement system, military, of course, and labor and employer relations, economy. Okay? 5 areas. On the stage of demoralization, obviously there are tendencies in each society, in each country, which are going to opposite direction from the basic moral values and principles. To take advantage of these movements, to capitalize on them, is the main purpose of the originator of subversion. So we have religion, we have education, we have social life, we have power structure, we have labor relations, unions, and finally we have law and order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? These are the areas of application of subversion. What it means exactly? In case of religion, destroy it, ridicule it, replace it with various sects, cults, which bring people's attention, faith, whether it is naive, primitive, doesn't really matter. As long as the basically accepted religious dogma is being slowly eroded and taken away from the supreme purpose of religion, to keep people in touch with the supreme being, that serves the purpose. Therefore, replace it, accepted, respected religious organizations with fake organizations. Distract people's attention from the real faith and attract them to various different faiths. Education. Distract them from learning something which is constructive, pragmatic, efficient. Instead of mathematics, physics, foreign languages, chemistry, teach them history of urban warfare, natural food, home economy, your sexuality, anything, as long as it takes you away. Okay? Social life. Replace traditionally established institutions and organizations with fake organizations. Take away the initiative from people. Take away the responsibility from naturally established links between individuals, group of individuals, and society at large, and replace them with artificially, bureaucratically controlled bodies. Instead of social life and friendship between neighbors, establish social workers institutions, people who are on payroll, of whom Society? No. Bureaucracy. The main concern of social workers is not your family, not you, not social relations between groups of people. The main concern is to get the paycheck from the government. What will be the result of their social work doesn't really matter. They can develop all kind of concepts to show to the government and to the people that they're useful. Okay, away from the natural links, power structure. Okay, the natural bodies of administration, which are traditionally either elected by people at large or appointed by elected leaders of society, are being actively substituted by artificial bodies. The bodies of people, groups of people, whom nobody elected. Never. As a matter of fact, most of the people don't like them at all, and yet they exist. One of such group is media. Who elected them? How come they have so much power? Almost monopolistic power on your mind. They can rape your mind. But who elected them? How come they have a nerve to decide what is good and what is bad for the elected by you, president, and his administration? Who the hell are they? Spiro Agnew, who was hated by the liberal left, called them a bunch of enfeebled snobs. And that's exactly what they are. They think they know. They don't. The level of mediocrity in a big establishment like New York Times, Los Angeles Times, major television network, you don't have to be excellent journalist. You have to be exactly a mediocre journalist. That's easier to survive. There's no competition anymore. You have your good, nice income, $100,000 a year. That's it. Whether you are better or worse doesn't really matter anymore. As soon as you're smiling to the camera and do your job. That's it. No more competition. Power structure slowly is eroded by the bodies and groups of people who do not have neither qualification nor the will of people to keep them in power, and yet they do have power. Okay. Together with that, there is another process. Law enforcement, law and order organization and structure is being eroded. For the last 20, 25 years, if you see old movies and new movies, you can see that in new movies, a policeman, an officer of the United States Army looks dumb, angry, psychotic, paranoid. A criminal looks nice, kind of, well, he smokes hash and shoots the whatever drug, but basically he's a nice human being. He's creative. And he's unproductive only because society oppresses him. Whereby a general of Pentagon is always, by definition, a war maniac. A policeman is a pig, rude policeman. He abuses his power. No? A generalization like that. The hatred, the mistrust to the people who are supposed to protect you and enforce law and order. Moral relativity. It is that point. The next step is destabilization. Again, this word says for itself what it is. To destabilize all the relations, all the accepted institutions and organizations in a country of your enemy. How you do it? You don't have to send up a battalion of KGB agents to blow up bridges. No. You let them do it themselves. The area of application is, again, it's narrower now. Not like the previous case. The overt legitimate actions of the KGB in this case would be hardly noticeable. There is no crime if a professor who recently went to USSR introduces a course of Marxism-Leninism in a Californian college, for example. Nobody is going to come to his doorstep and say, okay, mister, come, you are under arrest. No, it's not a crime. It's not even considered a moral crime against your country. So the area of application here is narrowing down to economy, again, labor relations, right? To law and order, plus military. And economy, law and order. Yes, and again the media, but wider scope, little bit different. I'll explain it later. Okay, basically 3 areas. Economy. The radicalization of bargaining process. If on that stage we still could achieve, theoretically, some positive compromise between the negotiating sides with say, arbitrary introduction of arbitrary judges, a third side, objectively judging the demands of both sides. Here it's radicalization. On the stage of destabilization, we cannot come to compromise even within a family. The husband and wife couldn't figure out which is better. Husband wants his kids to eat at the table, and wife wants a child to roam around the room and drop food all over the floor. They cannot come to compromise unless they start a fight. It's impossible to reach a compromise, constructive compromise between neighbors. Some people say, I don't like you to watering your lawn at that time because exactly at that time I'm walking my dog and he's getting nervous. He cannot pass his bowels, you know. So they cannot compromise. They go to a civil court or something like that. Radicalization of human relations. No more compromise. Fight, fight, fight. The normal, traditionally accepted relations are destabilized. The relations between teachers and students in schools and colleges. Fight. The relations in economical sphere between laborers and employers are further radicalized. No more acceptance of the legitimacy of demands of workers. Law and order now also is pushed into the area where previously people settled their differences peacefully and legitimately. Now we are getting with this court cases in the smallest irrelevant cases. We cannot solve our problems anymore. The society at large becomes more and more antagonistic between individuals, between groups of individuals, and the society at large. The media puts himself in the opposition to the society in general, at large. Separate, alienated. Okay? On that stage, you remember I was talking a couple of hours ago about the sleepers. That's when the students from, say, United States, if they are trained in Lumumba University, or developing nations, that's the students I was dealing with, are being sent back from the Soviet Union here. Or if they were already in the United States, in the country which is the object of subversion, they spring to action. The sleepers go up. They slept for 15 to 20 years. Now they become leaders of groups, preachers, I don't know, public figures. Prominently they actively include themselves in a political process. All of a sudden we see a homosexual. 15 years ago he did his dirty job and nobody cared. Now he makes it a political issue. He demands recognition, respect, human rights, and he rallies a large group of people. And there are violent clashes between him and police, his group and ordinary people. No matter what. It's black against white, yellows against green, doesn't matter where the division line goes. As long as this group come into antagonistic clash, sometimes militantly, sometimes with firearms, that is destabilization process. The sleepers, many of whom are simply KGB agents, become leaders of the process of destabilization. Doesn't mean that Comrade Andropov sends Comrade Ivanov to the United States. The person who takes care is already here. He is a respected citizen of the United States. Sometimes he gets money from various foundations for his legitimate struggle for I don't know, human rights, women rights, kid lib, prison lib, whatever. There are sympathetic Americans who donate their money to him. This stabilization process usually leads directly to the process of crisis. In case of developing nations, that's the area where I was active. The process starts when the legitimate bodies of power, the social structure collapse. It cannot function anymore. So instead, we have artificial's body injected into society, such as non-elected committees. You remember I was talking about them here. Social workers who are not elected by people, media who are self-appointed rulers of your opinion, some strange groups which claim that they know how to lead society forward. They don't usually. All they care is how to collect donations and sell their own concocted ideology, mixture of religion and ideology. Here, we have all this artificial's body claiming power. If the power is denied to them, they take it by force. In case of Iran, for example, all of a sudden we have revolutionary committees. What kind of revolution? There was no revolution yet, and yet they had the committees. They were taking power of judgment. They had the power of execution, they had the power of legislation, and that they had the power of judicial. All of them combined in one person, who is half-baked intellectual, sometimes graduated from Harvard University or Berkeley. He comes back to his country and he thinks that he knows the answer to all the social, economical problems. Okay? Crisis is when society cannot function any more productively. It collapses, obviously. That's the word for crisis. So therefore, the population at large is looking for a savior. The religious groups are expecting a messiah to come. The workers say, we have family to feed. Let's have a strong government, maybe socialist government, centralized. When somebody put the employers on their place and let us work. We are sick and tired of going to strike and missing overtime and all that stuff. We need some strong man, strong government, a leader, a savior is needed. Population is sick and tired already. And here we are. We have a savior. Either a foreign nation comes in, or the local group of leftists, Marxists, no matter what they call themselves, Sandinista, a reverend or some sort, Bishop Muzureva, like in Zimbabwe, doesn't matter. A savior comes and says, I will lead you. So we have two alternatives here. Civil war and invasion. Okay? See how it goes? Civil war, we know what it is. Lebanon is the best example. The civil war, which was artificially implanted in Lebanon by injection of force of PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. Invasion we have in many other countries like Afghanistan, name any East European country, it was invaded by the Soviet army. But the result is the same. The next stage is normalization. Normalization is a very ironic word, of course. It is borrowed from 1968 situation in Czechoslovakia, when the Soviet propaganda and after them New York Times declared the country is normalized. The tanks moved into Prague, so there is no more Prague Spring, there is no more violence, normalization. At that stage, the self-appointed rulers of the society don't need any revolution anymore. They don't need any radicalism anymore. So this is the reverse from destabilization. Basically, it is stabilizing the country by force. So all these sleepers and activists and social workers and liberals and homosexuals and professors and Marxists and Leninists are being eliminated physically sometimes. They've done their job already. Okay? They are not needed anymore. The new rulers need stability to exploit the nation, to exploit the country, to take advantages of the victory. Okay? So no more revolutionaries, please. And that's exactly what happens in a number of countries. You remember Bangladesh? This is the crisis in which I was instrumental. First they had Mujibur Rahman. In 1971 he was the leader of People's Party, Awami League, with mustache like Stalin. He was in Russia many times. In 5 years he was shot by his former colleagues, Marxists. He fulfilled his function. In Afghanistan it happened 3 times. First there was Taraki, then there was Amin, now there's Babrak Karmal. They killed each other successively, one after another. The moment he fulfills his duty, the first one demoralized country, the second destabilized, the third one brought it to crisis. Goodbye, comrades. Babrak Karmal comes from Moscow and put into the seat of power. Same thing happened in Grenada recently. Maurice Bishop, Marxist, was killed by Austin, what's his name, General something, who was also a Marxist. Right? So no more revolutions, please. Normalization now. From now on, no more strikes, no more homosexuals, no more women lib, no more kid lib, no more lib, period. Good, solid, democratic, proletarian freedom. That's it. Now, to reverse this process takes enormous effort. When today, United States had to invade Grenada to reverse the process of subversion. Some people say, boy, this is not good, it's not kosher to invade the beautiful country, island of Grenada. Well, why didn't you stop the process here, when Grenada was just approached by leftists? Why not to prevent Maurice Bishop to come in power in the first place? Did Grenadians want him? Very questionable. They didn't know who was Maurice Bishop in the first place. He came to power by coup d'etat himself. Okay? No, we let the situation develop further and further and further until the crisis and normalization very soon. Now, at that point, at the point of destabilization, also the process could be reversed. Again, easily than this. No CIA involvement at this point. You know what it takes here? Restriction of some liberties for small groups which are self-declared enemies of the society. As simple as that. Oh no, the media and liberals will tell you this is against the American Constitution. How can we, by force, deny the civil rights to criminals, for example? It's not good. Okay? So we allow them to. Okay, if you allow the criminals to have civil rights, go on and bring the country to the crisis. This is a bloodless way to do. Curb the rights. I mean, not to put them in prison. No, I'm not talking about putting all the gays from San Francisco in the concentration camp. Do not allow them to take political force. Do not elect them to the seats of power, whether it is municipality level, state level, or federal level. It has to be beaten in the heads of American voters that a person like that in the seats of power is an enemy. Do not be afraid of this word. It is an enemy. If he is not an enemy here, he will be here. Later on, he will be shot, of course. But at this point, he is an enemy. Okay? You are doing great service by denying him a right to capitalize on his own crazy ideas and become a powerful man, a man who uses the seat of power. Restriction of certain freedoms and permissiveness at that point would prevent sliding into crisis and probably will return the process of destabilization. To curb unlimited power, monopolistic power of trade unions here at that point would save economy from collapsing. To introduce a law to stop private companies, of raping public opinion's mind in the direction of consumerism. No company must have a right to force you into buying more unless you want it. There must be a law. You want to advertise your car? Okay. But not a single mentioning of buying it now and saving money. It must be against the law to force people to consume more. Self-restraint. Previously, before this process started, the self-restraint was a business of church, religion. Because our preachers, the fathers of church, would tell us, material values are good, but it's not the prime function of human being. Because you have to live with something. Obviously, the design for our life is not to consume more deodorants. There must be something greater. If such a complicated instrument as human body was created, obviously there must be some higher purpose for that. At the same time, the simplest answer to the subversion is to start it here and even before, by bringing back the society to religion, something that you cannot touch and eat and put on yourself, but something that rules society and makes it move and preserve it. A Soviet scientist, Shafarevich, who has nothing to do with religion, he is a computer scientist, did a very intensive research on the history of socialist countries. He calls socialist or communist any country with a centralized economy and a pyramidal style of power structure. And he discovered, actually he didn't discover it, he just brought to attention of his readers, that civilizations like Mohenjo-Daro in the river Indus area, like Egypt, like Maya, Incas, like Babylonian culture, collapsed and disappeared from the surface of Earth. The moment they lost religion, as simple as that, they disintegrated. Nobody remembers about them anymore. Well, distantly. So, the ideas are moving society and keeping mankind as society of human beings, intelligent, moral agents of God. The facts, the truth, the exact knowledge may not. All the sophisticated technology and computers will not prevent society from disintegrating and eventually dying out. Have you ever met a person who would sacrifice his life, freedom, for the truth like that? This is truth. I never met a person who said, this is truth and I'm ready to shoot me. To defend the truth. Right? But millions sacrifice their life, freedom, comfort, everything for things like God. Like Jesus Christ. It's an honor. Some martyrs in the Soviet concentration camp died. And they died in peace. Unlike those who shouted, "Long live Stalin," knowing perfectly well that he may not live long. Something which is not material moves society and helps it to survive. And the other way around. The moment we turn into 2 by 2 is 4 and make it a guiding principle of our life, our existence, we die. Even though this is true, and this we cannot prove. We only can feel and have faith in it. So the answer to ideological subversion, strangely enough, is very simple. You don't have to shoot people, you don't have to aim missiles and Pershings and cruise missiles at Andropov's headquarters. You simply have to have faith and prevent subversion. In other words, not to be a victim of subversion. Don't try to be a person who in judo is trying to smash your enemy and being caught by your hand. Don't strike like that. Strike with the power of your spirit and moral superiority. If you don't have that power, it's high time to develop it. And that's the only answer. That's it.
Thank you.
You know, Elon Musk, I'm almost to the point where I really have no sympathy for those who continue to support him. I've spoken about him recently at a message that I did in Orlando. I've got all the documentation to back it up. I touch on it briefly in the third book in this series that we're talking about. It's called Spirit of the False Prophet, Rise of the Global Technocracy. But there's no question that he's a Satan worshiper. I mean, his mom is a witch. His sister makes movies about witches. He wears a Baphomet. He's talked about wanting to replace God, wanting to create a new God. He's a transhumanist and a leading transhumanist at that. The guy is absolutely no friend of Christians. And for Christians to just jump on board the Musk train without any discernment whatsoever is stunning to me, because it's not that hard to find this stuff out. When he was a young boy, his nanny has come out and said that he invited her into a portal. I mean, the guy is demonically influenced at worst and possibly even at a minimum, and possibly even demonically possessed. So, yeah, I get that he's cutting waste. Whoop-de-doo, we got $38 trillion in debt, and so we're going to cut a few, pennies here or there. That's not going to amount to much in the long run at all. So Christians, I think, need to really be careful about lining up behind Elon Musk or Peter Thiel or Sam Altman or Curtis Yarvin or Larry Ellison, any of these other technocrats that guys like Patrick Wood have been warning about for a long time.
Well, explain, now that you're naming those other people, what some of the things that they've done that have been alarming, and then since President Trump has become president, some of the stuff that they've said.
Yeah, well, the very first day after his inauguration, Larry Ellison stood in the Oval Office and announced, along with Trump and along with Sam Altman, Stargate, which is a massive AI project to provide the power necessary, the energy necessary to run all of these massive server farms. The problem with AI isn't the technology. We've crossed that Rubicon. They know what they're doing. They've kind of let the cat out of the bag on the capabilities of AI, and they are horrific in the long run. But the problem is energy hasn't kept up with it. So they need more energy. In places like DFW, for example, Dallas-Fort Worth, I think it was something like 1/3 of the water consumption in the whole Metroplex area was used for AI factories, because they have to try to keep these machines cool. So it's just they've opened these massive plants. The one they announced in January with Larry Ellison and Donald Trump and Sam Altman and the other guy, Masayoshi, I think is his name, from Japan, the four of them in a press conference in the Oval Office, was opened in Abilene, Texas. They plan to open many, many more. The U.S. Is claiming that we've got to lead the world in AI, otherwise China will. Well, look, there's no China versus U.S. versus Russia. There's the Luciferians who are pulling the strings at the highest levels to try to usher in a one-world political, economic, and religious system. That's what the Bible teaches. So we cannot allow ourselves to fall into this trap of an us versus them at the lower level and act like, oh, it's okay for us to fund and roll out all of this AI stuff, which is exactly what the Antichrist is going to use to oversee the beast system.
Okay, well, speaking of needing, I didn't know that about what you were saying with the water and to cool it, the system. Do you think, do you think Trump threatening Greenland, that, because I've heard people speculating that they want Greenland because they can put a lot of that technology there and it can cool it. I mean, is that true? And can you explain this whole thing? I mean, Trump threatening Greenland with military takeover? What is all of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really bizarre. And honestly, Trump is almost beside the point these days. I mean, obviously, most people that follow our ministry, they know my views on Trump. I've never been a Trump fan going back to 2015. I've never have been. I understand he's not, Kamala Harris, and he's not Joe Biden, and he's not Obama. I get that, but let's look at who he really is. But at this point, the technocrats that have flooded into the Washington, D.C. Beltway almost make Trump irrelevant. I don't know if he's, the cart or the horse, or he's just along for the ride. I don't really know. I could speculate, but that would just make people mad. So let's assume the best. Let's assume that he's not in on it. He just wants what's best for America. He's trying to do some good. It doesn't matter, Janie, because what's happening right under his nose is, and very, very rapidly, by the way, is setting the stage for the beast system.
The time has come to say goodbye. You say you lost your will to try, but I believe for sure someday you'll be realized our love was meant forever. Our love could last a million years. Our love could burn forever. We both rely as man and wife, grow together, grow together, grow together as a root of an ancient tree. I'm shattered in pieces, 'cause you're leaving me behind. God knows what you're looking for, but I don't think it's there to find. Only once in a lifetime, if your lucky stars guide you right, found the one you belong to.